Caitlin Clark was one heck of a basketball player, but what I did not know was that Caitlin Clark, yes folks, is a time traveler herself.
The entire WNBA was just rocked by Caitlin Clark. Following weeks of quiet, interminable, after much conjecture and increasing pressure, supporters have finally received the confirmation they have been waiting for. She will return. However, why now? Behind the scenes, what changed? And will the Indiana Fever's season be saved by her return? Let's dissect it. Officially, Caitlin Clark is making a reappearance. And don't make a mistake, this makes all the difference. Fans were left in suspense for weeks, while the Fever organization remained silent, practices were closed, and injury reports remained ambiguous. However, the entire WNBA landscape abruptly changed overnight with the confirmation. Teams, sponsors, and even broadcasters are unable to deny the impact that the league's top players' return to the court is already having. This goes beyond a single athlete getting well from an injury. This has to do with momentum, playoff positioning, and redefining the Indiana Fever's potential. Indiana's offense was centered solely on her playmaking and shot creation before to Clark's downfall. Without her, the Fever appeared to be a band fumbling for identity and had trouble finding their rhythm. However, the whole vibe of the franchise feels different now that Clark is getting ready to make a comeback. This is the major query that everyone has. Is she prepared to return with all her might? This is the reason this moment is so strong. Fans are giddy with thrill, competitors are concerned, and the league is keeping a careful eye on things since they know a healthy everything from games to ticket sales to playoff dynamics is altered by Caitlin Clark. There is a danger associated with this return, though. Things start to get interesting at that point. The path that has led Caitlin Clark to this point has not been simple. Her anticipated breakthrough season instead became a torturous struggle with her own body. The first was a persistent groin problem that kept her out of commission when the Fever most needed her. Discussions concerning whether she was receiving adequate legal protection were triggered by that setback, particularly in light of the volume of interaction she had throughout the year. She appeared to be about to return, but then tragedy struck once more. A bruised bone in her left ankle in early August while training alone. Her timeline abruptly changed from vague to totally unpredictable. The same question began to be asked by league players, fans, and experts. This season, will she ever play again? It wasn't only physical rehabilitation. It was insane. We haven't seen this kind of strain on Clark in years. She is bearing the weight of the fan base, the Fever, and possibly the WNBA as a whole. The suspense increased with each day spent away from a court, but so did the scrutiny. Was she being hurried by Indiana? Did she give herself enough time to recover? Nevertheless, in spite of the obstacles, here we are. Because of her tenacity, Clark is now in a position to make a comeback. She has also reportedly been looking good in practice. The question today is not if she will return, but rather if she can continue to play at the caliber that made her the most talked about basketball player. The Indiana Fever were struggling to stay afloat while Caitlin Clark was out. The depth of the guard totally collapsed. The squad was forced to fill minutes after Arie McDonald, Sydney Colson, and Sophie Cunningham suffered injuries. Indiana found it difficult to produce a steady attack without Clark's goals and playmaking, and they looked outmatched by top squads. However, this is what's noteworthy. The Fever persisted. To keep the season going, players like Nalissa Smith and Kelsey Mitchell came through with unexpected victories. They have been playing with heart and scrounging for every possession. However, it hasn't been sufficient to put them in a real playoff race. Clark's comeback therefore signifies more than merely having a top player play again. The goal is to bring equilibrium back to a roster that has been overworked. Without her, Indiana has been struggling, but now that their center is back, they have an opportunity to reinvent their attacking style. This is the truth. Postseason dreams for the Fever are in jeopardy. Through a thread. As of yet, they have no power over their own fate. However, that might quickly change now that Clark is back in the lineup. From now on, every possession counts. And each victory might mean the difference between this club watching from home or sneaking into the playoffs. Can a late-season turnaround be sparked by Clark's return? Then, Indiana is taking that risk, and it will result in one of the most exciting basketball games of the year. The squad changes are evidence that the Fever are getting ready for Caitlin Clark's comeback. Kira Lambert was recently cut by Indiana after agreeing to a 7-day contract that was intended to stabilize the guard rotation. She didn't play much, only 4 seconds before being waived in a single game. The league was taken aback by that move, but upon closer inspection, it makes sense. Lambert was not brought in by the Fever with the intention of using her as a long-term fix. She signed in order to buy time, maintaining rotations until Clark was prepared. One thing is clear from Lambert's early termination, though. Indiana thinks Clark will soon return. Conversely, Odyssey Sims has merited a larger role. The seasoned guard demonstrated her worth as someone who can steady the backcourt and ease Clark back into action by playing 42 minutes in a recent game. Sims is more than a temporary solution. She's insurance, a seasoned presence capable of managing stress when Clark isn't on the court. This roster change suggests a calculated approach in every way. Indiana is not in a panic. As soon as Clark returns, they are setting themselves up for maximum flexibility. Indiana's front office is aware that every position on the depth chart counts, with 9 games remaining. If you read between the lines, you'll see that this move was planned out rather than impulsive. The roster should be set to maximize Caitlin Clark's effect as soon as she returns to the court as the Fever get ready to give her back the keys. What is the precise date of Caitlin Clark's return? The million-dollar question is that. Based on the most likely timeframe, based on team scheduling and insider reports, is August 22nd to 26th, with the Seattle Storm game highlighted as a possible return date. Everything appears to be in perfect alignment. After their final game, the Fever take a long break, which allows Clark more time to get more fit without missing any important games. Clark has reportedly been taking part in full contact drills, which are often the last phase before a player is cleared for game involvement, according to Coach Stephanie White-Sins. However, this schedule is subject to change. It's difficult to recover from a bone bruise, and the Fever don't want to put her in danger of suffering a setback by hurrying her return swiftly. That is the reason these upcoming days will be so interesting. To increase their chances of making the playoffs, do they press for an earlier return, or do they wait until she is fully recovered? The twist is here. Now every game counts. The Fever need Clark as soon as possible since they are running out of time to move into the postseason. However, one mistake might ruin everything for her and the group. Everything suggests late August. Fans will have to wait until the Fever makes it official, though. One thing is definite whenever it occurs. From the first tip, Clark's first game back will feel like a playoff game. This comeback for Caitlin Clark goes beyond simply playing again, that's safeguarding her future. Although she has previously demonstrated that she is among the WNBA's most dynamic offensive players, the risk-reward ratio is quite favorable in this situation. Her career path may be impacted if she returns too soon and aggravates the ailment. However, Indiana's season can end before she even sets foot on the floor again if she waits too long. She is currently walking that tightrope. Her legacy is another aspect of this period. Clark is not your typical youthful celebrity. She represents a franchise and, in many respects, the WNBA. Her actions are exaggerated in every way. Each game is analyzed, and this return is no exception. Supporters anticipate that she will pick up where she left off, but after missing a lot of time, that's easier said than done. Her rhythm, conditioning, and camaraderie with teammates will all be put to the test right away. Nevertheless, Clark does well under duress. We've witnessed it previously, such as during her most recent comeback, when she made a 32.7 three-pointer explosion against the Liberty. Now, the question is straightforward. Is she able to repeat it? The Fever season isn't the only thing at stake here. It's about demonstrating once more that Caitlin Clark is the league's best person to bear the burden of expectations. Art the return of Caitlin Clark benefits more than just the Fever. It completely upsets the WNBA's equilibrium. Her presence affects national coverage of every game, shifts the dynamics of the playoffs, and compels opposition defenses to adapt. She performs. Let's have a look at the numbers. Second, this season, Clark leads the team in assists 8.8 and points 16.5. Season. She almost always attracts double teams, giving her teammates easy looks and boosting the offense as a whole. Indiana has had trouble scoring 75 points a game without her. That number rises dramatically with her. But basketball isn't the only thing involved. Everywhere Clark performs, attendance soars. In order to show heated contests during primetime, broadcasters modify their schedules. Because they are aware that she increases engagement more than anybody else, sponsors raise their investment at elsewhere in the league at the moment. Her comeback is therefore being regarded as a league-wide occasion. Caitlin Clark has been a major factor in the WNBA's record-breaking viewership this season. This implies that everything changes suddenly for opposing teams. Clark's long shooting range, her ability to break down defenses, and her court vision that makes baskets simple for others have forced coaches to adjust their game plans accordingly. To put it briefly, Caitlin Clark doesn't simply rejoin the fever. For everyone else, she changes the competitive environment. Her return is therefore more than just news. It's the season's turning point. As Caitlin Clark gets back, the Fever will have a different strategy. Coach Stephanie White has already made it clear that Clark will be gradually brought back in with a cap on playing time, but she will undoubtedly remain the team's main motivator. Clark's outstanding shooting will likely be used by Indiana to create space, particularly from deep. Because of her gravity, defenders must stretch out past the arc, giving Kelsey Mitchell and Melissa Smith driving lanes. During her absence, that equilibrium has been absent. Off-ball sets will also be important. Indiana may produce mismatches that leave defenders reeling by running Clark through staggered screens. She requires less room to shoot because of her shooting touch. Make teams pay. On defense, Clark's presence alters games because she can create transitional opportunities.